Things go from bad to worse for Danny and the whole of Bleakwood, as the fleshy monstrosity that started off with her brother has now taken over and engulfed the entire town. But is there any way to actually stop this thing? Plus, is Danny about to come to blows with the Wardens? This is The Last Wardens number 3. Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest YouTubers you've never heard of. I, of course, am your host for today, Cross, and today we are checking out The Last Wardens Issue 3, coming from Mad Cave Studios. Before we get into anything today, though, hope you noticed our beanie that I am wearing, some new Last Wardens merchandise. As much as I love the hat, though, I'm gonna have to take that off. Whew. It is very hot in this room, and I would boil trying to record the video with this on. But massive shout out to Amit Tishler, one of the co-writers and co-creators of The Last Wardens, who sent us a New York Comic Con goodie bag early for The Last Wardens stuff that had this beanie in it. I had a Last Wardens shoulder bag, and also Last Wardens Issue 1 signed by himself and Elliot Sperl. So thank you so much, Amit, for sending that Last Wardens care package out to us. Greatly appreciate it. Huge fans of the comic, huge fans of them, so that was an absolute treat to get. If you're heading to New York Comic Con, make sure to go and say hi to the guys at the Mad Cave table, and I believe some of that stuff's going to be available for you, so make sure to grab some of it. Let them know as well that we had said to stop by. But before we dive into today's comic, make sure you go down there, hit that subscribe button so that you are kept up to date on everything going on with Comics in the Cross. You don't miss out on any of our amazing content, including the fact that we are now in Spooky Month. We are in October. We are on our way towards Halloween, which means a lot more horror-based content this month, which if that is your jam, you do not want to miss out on it. Also, while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button as well. It really does help us out in the algorithm, and we greatly appreciate it. But if that's it for today, we're going to be diving on in. Make sure you're all caught up with The Last Wardens as well. Click the card up in the corner to see our previous reviews on issues 1 and 2, as well as checking out our interview with Amit and Elliot about a month ago when issue 2 dropped. But once you're all caught up, let's get on in. The Last Wardens number 3 was written by Elliot Sperl and Amit Tishler, with artwork from Rui Silveira. Colours are by Francesco Segala, and lettering from Cvetkovic. As our issue begins, we start inside the police station in Bleakwood. Danny's friend Mark, who was being consumed at the end of issue 2, is still being absorbed into this fleshy monstrosity. He's crying out for help, asking for someone to make it stop as he screams that it hurts so badly and he's in so much pain. We had seen that Worm of the Wardens had made it inside the building, and he has had enough of this waiting around. It's time to stop this Cronenbergian nightmare. Danny attempts to step in his way and he pushes her aside, only for Danny to grab one of Worm's tentacles and pulls and stomps on it to stop him from potentially hurting her friends and family inside the monster. Worm spins round and reaches out, grabbing Danny by the throat and lifts her straight up off the ground. He starts yelling that he has had enough with her interfering, but before he can say any more, Officer Burns shoots him in the back of the head. Worm drops Danny, and Officer Burns checks to make sure that she is okay. Worm turns around and he and Burns are about to come to blows when all of a sudden Danny steps in to calm the situation down. Danny apologises to Worm and tells him that she didn't intend to get in his or in the other warden's way. All she's trying to do is get them to understand that this thing that they are attacking that it's connected to and is part of her brother, and it's now tormenting one of her friends. She just wants to find some way, any way that she can, to try and save them. Thankfully, Worm responds to Danny in kind by talking to her as well. Okay, it's definitely a more exasperated version of talking, but it's talking nonetheless. But he tells Danny that this thing is not anyone's family or friend. It's a cancer that they have to stop before it spreads and consumes so much that it truly becomes unstoppable. They can't save her brother because he is too far gone, and Worm knows this for certain because he has seen it before and even been there himself. Danny is about to pry further to ask Worm what exactly he means by that, but they are interrupted by Mark, or the fleshy lump that used to be Mark that is now a deconstructed nothing on the side of the creature, crying out to his girlfriend Laurie to help him. The pain is unbearable, and he asks her to cut him out. Laurie grabs a piece of glass from the rubble, but another police officer, Officer Tim, grabs her to try and hold her back and keep her safe. But unfortunately for Tim, Laurie stabs him in his hand with the piece of glass, which obviously forces him to let her go. She then charges at the creature and stabs it with the glass, only for Mark / the creature to scream out in pain and smack Laurie so hard that she flies across the room. Worm uses his tentacles to catch Laurie and gives her over to Danny's friend Keith, who is still with them. Officer Burns tells them, head through the back of the building, there's an exit they can use to get out. She's going to go and try and get Officer Tim. But as Officer Burns approaches him, both of them are impaled by the creature as it starts to grow and expand and take over the building. Danny, Keith and Laurie run for their lives and make it out of the building just in time as it's consumed. They make it out onto the streets, but find themselves face to face with the Wardens. The Wardens have had enough of Danny's interfering in this situation. She insists on pushing her way into every single thing that happens, and every time she costs people their lives, allows the creature to grow, and stops the Wardens from doing their job and killing the creature. The leader of the Wardens, Riddle, who now looks like a lumberjack Stay Puft Marshmallow Man for some reason, tries to get through to her one last time. He tells her that the Wardens have protected humanity throughout history from the great drifts, and her brother cannot be saved. But once again, she starts to question the Wardens, much to their frustration. Alright, I have to be honest about my thoughts at this point about Danny. Up until now, I've very much understood where she's coming from. I consider myself pretty logical and pragmatic in the way that I think about things, but I do understand the intense emotion of a family member being in trouble and wanting to do everything that you can to save them. I get that that's her driving force, but at this moment, Danny has 100% went against the Wardens at every opportunity in an attempt to save her brother. But she is so far focused so much on saving her brother that she has allowed the Cronenberg monster to go from being stuck in her house to now taking over the whole of Bleakwood. From the casualty count being her brother and her father, to being pretty much the whole town at this point, including one of her friends. And then on top of it all, she's in this moment, has no understanding of the creature, of the situation, of how to stop it. And yet, she is still arguing with them. I thought we were seeing a nice interesting turnaround moment when her and Worm actually conversed with each other earlier in this issue. That maybe she was starting to understand that there was a connection, starting to understand, okay, we're both coming at this for different perspectives, but for a good reason. But no, we're outside this building and Danny has watched more people die and is still arguing, even with Riddle fully saying to her that you need to stay out of this because this thing is unstoppable. This thing can't be beaten. We've been fighting drifts for so long that we need to stop it before it becomes unbeatable and it grows too big. And Danny is still fighting. I love the fighting spirit, but at this point she's becoming so irritating to me. I'm like, it's like you don't know what you're doing and you're actually costing more people their lives at this point. And it's getting very frustrating. Okay. At this point in the book, like I got really frustrated and I just had to have a little rant. I just had to get it out there and just clear my brain. Alright. Back into the issue. Faced with all of the wardens, Keith believes that they should get out of there and get Laurie to a hospital. But Danny doesn't want to go. She says that she's staying and she needs to get answers. This shows some cracks in the wardens themselves as Worm starts to berate Riddle in front of her that they don't have answers any more than she does. Or even a way to stop it, that Riddle's just throwing stuff to the wall to see what sticks. Riddle is greatly offended by this. He doesn't appreciate the accusation and snaps back at Worm, while also giving us a little bit more background and lore to the wardens. Riddle tells Worm that if he wants to earn his freedom, then he better fall in line. Although Sierra also claps back, saying that Riddle can't keep holding this over their heads, and at some point he has to deliver on some results. We don't get any more than that at the moment though. As all the wardens are fighting with each other, Brix takes the opportunity to go up to Laurie and try and comfort her. Unfortunately, this kind of backfires as Laurie starts to freak out. She doesn't want Brix to be anywhere near her. She's overwhelmed with this whole situation. And instead of being comforted, she instead takes off running. She takes off towards the nearest building, which just so happens to be the movie theatre. Danny and Keith take off right after her in an attempt to try and catch their friend and keep her away from the creature and also being devoured. Laurie runs inside the theatre, and as she continues to run to get away from them and try and run from this whole situation, she gets too close to a mouth and the creature devours her whole. Danny is traumatized at seeing another one of her loved ones devoured by this monster. But before she can wrap her head around what's just happened, the wardens come smashing into the movie theatre to try and stop them from interfering any further. Danny and Keith duck and cover to stay out of their way, and Keith takes her into the basement of the building where he finds an access panel to get down into the sewers. He says that his dad brought him down here when he was a kid before, and it looks like that the growth is coming from underneath the city. So they're hoping that if they look around down there, they might find the source of the creature and a way to stop it. And this issue comes to a close, with Danny and Keith finding a door with another of the monster's mouths wrapped around it. What another great issue of The Last Wardens. Honestly, I am thoroughly enjoying this series. I'm really enjoying the way this story is going, and even though it feels like it can be going a little bit slow telling this first story arc, you know, and I don't think that's so much the story being slow as much as my anticipation and wanting to know more. Honestly, I'm enjoying it and the pace that it's going at. I like that we finally got a little bit more of the lore dropped in this issue. Finding out what's going on with the wardens, that Riddle is in charge of them, but he's got something, they're doing a job for him or doing jobs for him to earn their freedom. He helps them take these things out and gives them a way to take out these other creatures, which we found out are called drifts as well. And from what we got talking with Amit and Elliot, it's very highly hinted at that the wardens themselves are all drifts. So we got a lot of lore kind of not a lot of lore, we got a good bit of lore, kind of. The door creaked open on it a little bit. And I'm like, I'm excited, and I think they're going to hint at a lot more of that lore when we get to the end of this one. I'll be honest, I don't totally know where this is going to go. I feel like even at this point, if the Wardens are able to kill the monster, that Bleakwood's gone. Even if they kill the creature, I don't see it like retracting back in or anything. Even if it somehow does, the damage is already done. People are already dead and absorbed into it. I don't see it being a way for them to come back. It doesn't feel like that sort of story. And I think Dani's going to realise that these Wardens are capable of handling it. Although she's been able to step in and try and do some stuff. And she's going to want to hang around with them to get more answers to what's going on. I'm not going to go in depth about Dani herself in this because I kind of touched it in this issue. I felt there was some good moments for her in this, but overall, like, it's getting irritating that she's still pushing back against the Wardens when her options are clearly not the right one, because it's getting more people killed, all just to save her brother. And I'm hoping that's going to be a turning point for her, that it's going to be she realises the focus on her brother stopped her from saving these other people, and that can't happen again. But we'll need to wait and see what goes on with that one. But I love the Wardens themselves. Like, I honestly can't wait to get into the situation more, and I love it. It's a good monster story. It's a good horror story. This Cronenbergian monster taking over the city, people dying, her friends being killed, being absorbed into it. Is Keith going to survive? No idea. There's a good chance he's going to get absorbed into it as well. And Dani's left with nothing, and that's kind of why she probably ends up with the Wardens, because she has nowhere else to go and they'll probably kind of adopt her. But that's just my guesses at some of the stuff that's going to happen in the series. But I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I think it's a really intriguing series. I love monster stories and cryptids and all that sort of stuff, these bizarre creatures and monsters with lore behind how these people became the way they were. I'm like, this is a book that is right up my alley. And if you like supernatural, if you like horror, if you like monster and body horror books, if you like all of that, then this is definitely a story to pick up for you. Elliot and Amit are doing a phenomenal job with the story. Rui Silveira and Francesco Segala with their art and colouring on this, and Frank Cvetkovic is with his lettering, they're doing an amazing job piecing this story together. I absolutely adore the art in it. Some of the visuals of like the monstrosity of the creature, of the Wardens themselves, you know, just the way the town is kind of crumbling under it, it's been absolutely phenomenal to read. I'm absolutely enjoying this book. And this was one I know it came out already in September, but I wanted to save this one as one to cover as the start of our Halloween series, and covering scarier books, because it's a monster book, so it technically counts, although it's not the scariest horror book out there or anything like that. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And this is probably one of my favourite books to grab from Mad Cave Studios right now. So I highly recommend going and checking it out. And also as well, when you get to connect with the creators of the story and understand their perspective on it, it changes things as well, because you get to understand where they're coming from and why they're creating things the way they are and what their hopes are for a story. So if you missed our conversation with Amit and Elliot, please go and check it out. Because I don't know if it helps for you, but it definitely helps for me, like getting into the head of the creator to understand. And there's been a number of books that I've gotten more excited about as I've talked with the creator and I've heard of their vision for it. So definitely go and check it out. Go and check out our stuff on that interview with Amit and Elliot, but also go and grab The Last Wardens for yourself. There's a great opportunity that this book could continue going past the current number of issues that it's been given, but that's only if you support it, and this is one I would highly recommend going and picking up. But I think that's everything from me for today. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate it. Also as well, make sure if you want to support this channel, you can also go over and check out our Patreon, where you get early access to all of our video content here, as well as the content from our other channels. Not to mention the fact that if you want behind the scenes looks at stuff and exclusive content specifically for the Patreon, then all of that is available for just $2 a month. And all of that support goes into keeping us doing what we're doing. So thank you so much for all that you do for us. Thank you so much for all the love, all the views, all the likes, all the subscriptions. We greatly appreciate it. But for now, that's all from me. Remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care, and we'll see you all soon. Peace.